Hey friends, welcome back to the channel. So I recently turned 30. And over the last 10 years, I've met some incredibly successful people who have become friends and mentors to me in some way or another. And so as a bit of a celebration of my 30th birthday, I asked a few of them to share some life advice with me for my 30s. I asked everyone to answer the question, what do you wish you'd known when you turned 30? And so if you're older than 30, you might find that interesting. And if you're under 30, it might be interesting for you to help plan out your next few years, depending on how old you are. Now, these are all people who I look up to in some way on the business front. They're all very, very successful in business or as writers or whatever their work thing is, which is often how I connect with them. But I also really admire how they approach their personal lives. I don't really believe too much in learning from people who are just like full on in work mode, because they often make sacrifices in their personal life to get ahead in their work. And I'm really looking for more holistic advice, because I want to do well in the work stuff and have an impact and write more books and stuff. You know, the personal stuff is way more important than the work stuff. And so I like to get advice from people who I feel have a decent balance between the two. There's gonna be timestamps down below if you would like to skip around, but now let's get into it. All right, so we're starting things off with Mathew Hussey.
Well, here we go again.
Now, Mathew is a relationship and dating coach who is also big in the world of personal development. And I first met Mathew a few years ago when I interviewed him on my podcast, and then we became friends after that, and we've hung out a bunch of times. And so this is Mathew's advice.
Happy birthday, Ali. What would I hope someone told me at 30? That the things I keep hiding about myself, thinking that if people knew them, I would be unattractive or unlikable or unlovable, were actually just parts of me that needed compassion and parts of me I needed to accept. And that even though they were parts of me, those things do not define me. Happy birthday, my man.
Okay, so this is an interesting one. One thing I want to do as I go throughout this video is create action points for each of these pieces of life advice. Because I think the thing with life advice, and I give a lot of it here on this YouTube channel, it's very easy to just take it, get a little bit of boost of motivation and dopamine, and we're like, yeah, that's pretty good. But if it doesn't translate into action points, it generally doesn't have much of an impact. And so in this case, I think the action point here is a journaling prompt. What parts of myself do I keep hidden, firstly? And secondly, what about me am I scared will make me less attractive, likable, or lovable? Oh, these are good questions. You know, this actually lands quite well. If I think about it, there's definitely things that I worry will make me less likable or lovable. The likable one is like the main thing for me. I think one of my realizations over the last year or so is that I feel like I have this strong desire to be liked. And that often leads to me deprioritizing my own preferences, the things that I want to do, for the sake of what I often perceive someone else might want. Now, obviously, there's a balancing act here. There's some aspects of life in which, you know, to sacrifice one's own preferences for the sake of someone else is like a nice thing to do. But I think I probably take it a little bit too far, because I'm really scared of being called selfish. That word, the word selfish, is interesting. I actually had, side note, a conversation with executive coach Joe Hudson, who, oh damn, I should have reached out to him for this video. But anyway, had a chat with him on my podcast. That episode will be out soon. And we talked about the word selfish. And his view was that the word selfish is a word that primarily parents use to control the behavior of their kids. And essentially selfish means you are doing something that I don't want you to do. And actually, in some ways, embracing selfishness is, ooh, feels scary to say, but embracing selfishness can often be quite empowering. Be like, yeah, actually, I'm gonna do what I want. Obviously, balancing act. Recently also reread the book No More Mr. Nice Guy by Robert Glover, which sounds like quite a clickbaity and mean title, but it's really, really, really good book. And it's basically about helping mostly men who are sort of nice guys actually think about what they want, rather than simply sort of caretaking and, I guess, managing the emotions of the people around them. So yeah, this really lands, and I'm definitely going to be journaling about this as well after this video, and maybe you might like to do the same if you would like. Oh, quick thing, if you're watching this before the 30th of June 2024, you might like to check out a completely free quarterly alignment webinar that I'm hosting completely freely for everyone in my audience. It is happening 3 to 5 p.m. UK time on Sunday, the 30th of June, 2024. The idea is we're going to spend 2 hours together. I'm going to be facilitating here on a Zoom call with like hopefully hundreds, if not maybe thousands of people from all around the world. We're going to be spending some time reflecting on the last 3 months and setting goals, i.e. quests, for the next 3 months. It is completely free. Anyone from anywhere in the world with an internet connection, you are very welcome to join. There is a link down below if you want to check it out. All right, next up we have Marie Forleo, who's an entrepreneur and an author. She runs an online program called Business School, and she has a really good book called Everything is Figure-Outable, which is, you know, kind of about what it says on the tin. And I met Marie actually about 5 months ago when I was in New York. We somehow got connected and she took me out to lunch and just gave me loads of business advice and also life advice, and was just super friendly and super nice. And so I reached out to her for this video.
I wish someone would have told me these 3 things when I turned 30. Number 1, if you have a dream of doing a awesome vacation with your parents or anyone in your family who's older, do it now. All of us age, it goes by really fast, and you do not want to miss out on the opportunity to be with the ones that you love while everyone still has their health. Number 2, keep embracing that low-cost lifestyle. Keep your expenses low and dial up on the earnings and savings bit. It will pay off a millionfold as you continue to age. And number 3, wear the sunscreen, like all over the body. You got to keep it tight and right and cute, and sunscreen is the answer.
Nice. On the sunscreen front, I do in fact wear sunscreen almost every day. I've got that in my evidence-based skincare video, which you can check out if you haven't seen already. The low-cost lifestyle thing is interesting. This is something that I've been thinking about for a while, because as I've made more money over the years, my lifestyle costs have also gone up. This is something called lifestyle inflation or lifestyle creep, depending on who you read about this sort of stuff. And so my action point for this is to remember to run the numbers. I don't really have a sense of how much I'm spending on like my lifestyle costs right now. I don't really have a sense of how much money is coming into the bank every month or every year, depending on what happens with the company. It's all kind of complicated. And it's been a very long time since I've actually sat down to run the numbers on this. So that's definitely an action point. Thank you, Marie. And the vacations with parents and family. That is a really good one. That is a very, very, very good one. All right, action point. Plan family trip. And I'm gonna add that into my relationship productivity system, which is something I've been building on Notion and stuff, using databases to keep track of who I want to create trips with and who I want to keep in touch with and stuff. I'll do a video about it at some point, but yeah, I've been finding that really helpful for being more intentional about relationships, but I hadn't really thought of doing a family trip, so thank you, Marie, for that advice. All right, next up we have Mark Manson. Mark Manson, as you might know, is the author of the mega best-selling book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And I've been following Mark online since like 2011, I think, when I first read his book Models, which is about how to attract women, lol. And then I've been following his blog ever since then, when it became more about personal development rather than about like men's improvement-y type bits. He very kindly interviewed me on his podcast when his book was coming out, and when I was in LA, I reached out to him just to hang out, and he was super gracious and friendly with his time and always gives really, really good life advice.
When I turned 30, I wish someone had told me that you really start to appreciate how little time you have in life. See, when you're 20, your whole life is in front of you, and there's kind of this infinite amount of opportunity that you feel like you can take advantage of. But by the time you get to your 30s, you've been through a decade of adult life, and you've roughly seen what can and cannot be accomplished in a decade, and you realize that it's not that much. And so I feel like your decisions take on a greater weight as you get older. You have less time in front of you, and you've built up enough things in your life that you have something to lose. You've got a career, you've got relationships, you have obligations, you have payroll, you have family members. You don't have that carefree luxury that you do when you're young. So that's what I wish somebody had told me when I turned 30. Happy birthday, Ollie. I'm super happy for you, dude. You continue to impress, and I hope your 30s are as fruitful as your 20s were.
Appreciate how little time you have. Decisions take on a greater weight. Ooh, that's nice. The way in which this lands for me right now is that I still think I do a lot of deferring, in the sense that, you know, to Marie's earlier point about, you know, vacation with family. And I'm like, oh, it would be cool to go on this trip with my mum and grandma or whatever. And then I look at my calendar, I'm like, yeah, but the calendar's really busy with all this work stuff. And then I'm doing this work trip, and then I'm going to Boise, Idaho for this conference. And then I'm blah, blah, blah. And then this thing's happening and that thing's happening. So maybe 6 months from now, when the calendar clears up, ... And it's very easy, I think especially with work stuff, it's very easy to let the work stuff fill up the calendar and think that there will always be more time for the other stuff, the family stuff. I think I'm doing an okay job in other aspects, like in health. I've started taking my health a lot more seriously this year, recognizing that, okay, I'm 30 now. You know, most people, when they are 30, they become less healthy than they were in their 20s. So I want to counteract that particular inertia. So what's the action point here? What is the action point? What's the journaling prompt? I think the journaling prompt is something that I haven't thought about in a very long time, but I used to think about this a lot, which is that if I knew I was going to die in 2 years, what would I do? How would that change how I spend my time? Yes, that is a good one. And last time I asked myself this question, which would have been a few years ago now, I concluded that one of the things I would do differently is that I would play more video games. because I sort of had drunk the Kool-Aid that like video games are a waste of time and they're unproductive and stuff. And I realized, you know, if I knew I was going to die in 2 years, yeah, I'd do all the friends, family, hangouts type things, but I'd also probably play more single-player role-playing games, which is my favorite type of video game. And now I'm playing Horizon Forbidden West on PS5. And I also concluded that I would read more fiction. So since then I have actually been reading more fiction. So once I do this journaling prompt now that I'm 30, it'll be interesting to see what the results are. And as always, maybe you'd like to do it as well. I'd love to hear in the comments if you do any of these journaling prompts or take any of these action points as well. What is the thing that what's the change you're gonna make in your life as a result of having watched this video? All right, next up we have Dr. Alok Kanojia, often known as Dr. K online, who runs an enormous YouTube channel called Healthy Gamer GG. Alok is a psychiatrist and also trained as a monk, and he was teaching on the faculty of Harvard Medical School. Now, Alok and I first got to know each other about a year ago when I was in Austin. And then since then we've kept in touch, we've become sort of online Zoom friends. And then we also did a bunch of therapy sessions is the wrong word for it, but sort of coaching sessions where he sort of helped me work through some things that I was struggling with last year. I really respect what he's built with Healthy Gamer. His content is amazing. And he's also just a really great guy, just in terms of always being willing to hop on a call and, you know, give some advice. Sort of like an elder brother, because he's like several years older than me. But yeah, let's see what Alok has to say.
Hey Ali, happy 30th birthday, man. Much love. One of the things that I wish I knew when I was 30 was how important it is to make bad decisions. Some of the best decisions I've made in my life are actually bad decisions, like getting married way too early, or having 2 kids during residency, or even walking away from great job offers. I think we spend the first 3 decades of our life living up to others' expectations. And once you kind of cross 30, it's time to really stop and reevaluate and think about what you want from life and start moving towards it. Happy 30th birthday, bro.
Oh, I like it. This is nice. Make bad decisions. We often spend the first 3 decades of our life living up to other people's expectations. Yeah, I would say that's probably true for me for at least the first 25 years and probably even the last 5. What do I actually want? This is another journaling prompt. What would I like to do if I didn't care at all about what others would think? And number 2, what bad decisions could I make that I'd probably be grateful for? One thing that really comes to mind for the first one is that I'd probably try living in a van for a bit, because it's something I've always wanted to do. I say always, it's something I've wanted to do for a few years and I just haven't really gotten around to it. If I think about it, there's nothing really stopping me from doing that. So I could just do that for a week here in London and just see what happens. And I can think of a few ideas around bad decisions that I'd make that I'd probably be grateful for further down the line, but I'm not going to share them in this video. I may write them up in an issue of my newsletter. By the way, I have a weekly newsletter. It's called Sunday Snippets. Every Sunday I send an email to my audience with some thoughts, some things that I'm learning, some books that I've been reading, interesting insights, all this sort of stuff. So if you're interested, you can check it out. It's free. You can unsubscribe whenever you want. aliabdaal.com/Sunday or the link in the video description. All right, next up we have Nir Eyal, who is also a best-selling author of the books Hooked and Indistractable. In particular, I really love Indistractable. It helped me focus better. And Nir very kindly invited me to a writer's retreat that he held in his house in New York. So I stayed at his place for a few days, met a bunch of other really cool writers, and he was also super helpful over the years in giving me just advice over email and Zoom when it came to marketing, like sort of writing, publishing, marketing my own book, Feel Good Productivity, which you can check out down below if you haven't already. And Nir is just a great guy all around. He's like in his 40s, I think, and he's like in really, really good shape. He's absolutely jacked. Seems to have a really, really strong family life as well. Really thinks intentionally about relationships and about kids and stuff. So I wonder what Nir has to say.
Ali, congratulations on your 30th birthday, buddy. I'm so happy for you. If there's one piece of advice I wish someone would have told me at 30 years old, it would be this: that if you have found the woman or man of your dreams, the person who you think can be the father or mother of your children, don't wait. Have those kids as quickly as possible. Have as many as you possibly can. They bring so much joy to your life. And if you don't have the kids, at least you will always have fun trying.
Nice. Oh, okay. That's interesting. That's interesting. You know what? That was actually one of the bad decisions that I had on my list with the Alok journaling prompt. I was thinking, like, yeah, a bad decision would probably to have kids ASAP and have plenty of them. A lot of people would advise against those sorts of things. It's interesting that Nir says that. Don't wait, have kids as soon as possible, have as many as possible, because they bring a lot of joy into life. That's good. That's good. Okay, well, I'm not married yet, so until I get married, I think one thing that would actually be useful is, as an action point, fertility testing. This is actually something I heard from another friend recently as well, saying that, like, you know, they struggled to have kids and it took them like 5 years, blah, 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 and had they just done fertility testing when they first got together or when they first knew that they were going to be together, they would have been able to do things earlier. So that's a fairly easy thing to do, even pre-marriage, which is interesting. If you happen to be watching this at this point in the video and you are a parent, i.e. you have one or more kids, I would love to hear your take on this. Do you wish you had more kids? Do you wish you had fewer kids? Feel free to use a throwaway YouTube account if you can't publicly admit to wanting to have fewer kids. But I'd love to hear what your perspective on that is, if you happen to have kids. Alrighty, next up we have Sahil Bloom. Now Sahil is only a few years older than me. I think he's like 34 or 35. But Sahil and I got to know each other when he came to London about 2 years ago, and he featured on my podcast. We went out to dinner, we became friends, and we've hung out a bunch of times since. And again, what I love about Sahil is that he's ridiculously successful as an entrepreneur, but he's also very, very present as a father and as a husband. And he really, like, it's not just a show. He's got a YouTube channel where he talks about this sort of stuff, but it's really not a show. He really does massively prioritize his family, often at the expense of his work, which is actually, I think, the right thing to do. So I really admire Sahil for that. Let's see what Sahil has to say.
When I turned 30, I wish someone had told me that game selection is now more important than game access. By the way, this is coming from the ripe old age of 33, so I cannot claim to have all that much more earned life experience or wisdom than you, but I'll do my best. So first, the tactical piece of advice. Your life to date and in your 20s has been all about game access. What do I mean by that? Well, you want to open yourself up in your 20s to the maximum number of opportunities, the maximum number of games, and that is the focus of your 20s, and you get there by saying yes to a lot of things. You want to open yourself up to new people, new experiences, new job opportunities. All of that has been an exploration phase to date, and your 20s, you did a great job of that. Your 30s are going to be very different. Your 30s are all about game selection. So if your 20s were about game access, your 30s and beyond are going to be about game selection, being very deliberate about the games that you say yes to, because your energy and your attention is so very finite. Your 20s were all about exploring the map and finding the right games. Now your 30s and beyond, you're gonna need to hone in on the games that really matter, the games that you really want to play, and the games that are going to drive asymmetric 10x, 100x, 1000x outcomes in your career, in your life, in your health, in all of these different areas. So think about that as you dive into your 30s. It's probably the biggest mistake I made in my early 30s was not realizing that I needed to make that transition. I continued saying yes to too many games in my early 30s, and it led me astray. It led me down paths burning energy on things that really didn't matter and really weren't going to drive the needle towards my long-term vision, mission, and goals. So think about that. That's my tactical piece of wisdom for you. Now, for the final piece of wisdom that I want to share with you. The best things in life are not free. That common wisdom, that common trope of, the best things in life are free, it's a lie. The best things in life are very, very expensive, extraordinarily expensive in fact, but you can't buy them with money. They have to be earned through effort, through daily consistency and discipline. We've talked about this in the past. You and I have done events where we talked about it on stage, but it's so, so important as you get into your 30s to realize this. Your relationships with the people you love, your health, your mindset, your mentality, your career, the team that you're building, all of these things are hard earned. You have to put in the effort every single day if you want to build those things. They are the best things in life. They cannot be bought. You have to earn them. So continue on your journey. I'm so proud of you. I'm so proud of everything that you've accomplished to date. And I can't wait to continue to have fun exploring together as we continue to narrow in on these games that really matter. And I hope some of those games align for our future because I can't wait to do more with you.
That's cute. Thank you, Sahil. That's very kind. I love that. Okay, game access versus game selection. That's a really nice way of framing it. Sort of reminds me of the Derek Sivers advice, which is that when you're early on in your career, I should have reached out to Derek as well for this video. Never mind. When you're early on in your career, say yes to everything. And then at a certain point, when you start having too many opportunities coming your way, it's either a hell yes or it's a no thank you. It's either a hell yes or it's a no thank you. And I think I also am currently facing this dilemma where, you know, especially since the book has come out and has been successful and now I get invited to do all these talks and stuff at different places, it's so easy to start saying yes to too much stuff And so my journaling prompt here is, what games do I really want to be playing in my 30s? And I think another one related to Sahil's point number 2 would be, what areas should I increase and decrease my investment of time and effort into? It's interesting. The best things in life are very expensive, but you can't buy them with money. You buy them, you earn them through effort, discipline, and consistency. So certainly a few things on the relationship front come to mind. On the health front, I think I've been pretty reasonable about that recently, but it's something to keep in mind. There's probably some aspects in work, in my business, where I should decrease my investment of time and effort, and other areas in my work where I should increase the investment of time and effort into. There are certain work projects that have the potential for way greater gains in terms of impact and also money and also fun than other areas. And so it's about making the decision to transition out of one phase of work and into another. Yeah, okay, nice. Solid journaling prompts. And again, if you're interested in joining me on these journaling prompts, I'd love to hear in the comments, or you can actually just email me if you don't want to share it publicly, ali@aliabdaal.com. I would love to hear what your response is to some of these journaling prompts. Alrighty, next up we have Dan Go, who is actually my fitness coach. And Dan and I have never met in person, but 3 days from now, he's coming over to London to stay at my house because he lives in Canada. So he's staying with me for a few days. So we'll meet in person for the first time and maybe do a podcast and stuff together. But Dan's great. Dan is super friendly, super nice, and has really helped me get my health and fitness in check. So let's see what Dan has to say.
Hey, what's up, Ali? Just want to say happy birthday. And if I were to give anyone a piece of advice for hitting 30, I would say that there is no greater return on investment than getting your body in shape. Even the actions of getting out in nature, of exercising, doing cardio, eating healthy foods, all of these have a tremendous impact on not only your body, but also your brain. And also, when you start to get in shape, when you start to get more fit, you just start to feel more energetic, you start to feel more confident, you start to feel more focused. So if there's anything that I would say that would completely change your life, not only your physical life, but also your business and your relationships, it is to get your body in shape. You will see no greater ROI than to do that.
Nice, that's really good. This is something that I've really started to appreciate recently, and I was doing a session for Productivity Lab, which is my community for entrepreneurs, creators, and professionals who want to double their productivity. We were doing a session like yesterday, where one of the things that I encouraged people, it was one of the journaling prompts, was what would it look like if you tripled the amount of time, effort, and money you're currently spending on your health? As a result of just that question, a bunch of people hired personal trainers, a bunch of people joined gyms, a bunch of people joined exercise classes, ordered healthier food, you know, that kind of thing. And it's one of those things that I keep hearing from older people that, you know, in your 20s and 30s, you really, really, really want to take care of your health, especially in your 30s. And so they say that, you know, intelligence is learning from your own experience, but wisdom is learning from the experience of others, or something like that. Every single person older than me I know has said, you know, they wish they'd taken more care of their health. And so that's something that I'm already doing with personal trainers and gyms and meal delivery that's like healthy and macro rich and, you know, all this stuff. But having said that, there's probably more I could be doing. So journaling prompt, what would it look like if I had to triple the time and money I invest in my health? Something that comes to mind straight away is I'd probably walk more. I probably don't get 10,000 steps a day because I spend a lot of my time in front of computers for work. So that's an easy win. I'd probably increase the amount of personal training sessions that I do. I currently do 3 per week, but I'd probably bump that up to 4 or 5 or even 6. Not all of them have to be weights. They could also be like mobility, flexibility, and that kind of stuff. I'd probably figure out like what are the longevity blood tests and stuff that people are doing these days, and should I do some of those? Yeah, those are a few of the things that come to mind. What would it look like if I had to triple the time and money I invest in my health? Thank you, Dan. All right, next up we have my friend and mentor, Chris Ducker. Chris is also an entrepreneur and author who is in his 50s. And we became friends again when he was on my podcast a few years ago, and we've hung out a few times since then, and we're part of the same like men's mastermind group. So let's see what Chris has to say.
Hey Ali, what's up? It's Chris Ducker here, man. Happy birthday to you. I wanted to share a little advice with you, if that's cool. If somebody had told me when I was 30 what I'm going to share with you, it would have made my 30s a lot less stressful, probably more profitable, quite frankly, but mostly just a heck of a lot more enjoyable. And that is that to embrace the action of learning how to switch off and recharge and reset and recalibrate your mental bandwidth, as well as obviously your physical bandwidth as well. We all know that being an entrepreneur is often very stressful, somewhat lonely at times as well, but also great leaders continue to look after themselves so that they continue to lead. And so that's my advice to you on your big 3-0, is to be able to embrace the action, switching off, taking it easy, maybe playing a little bit more PlayStation, and generally just enjoying life more. Have a great birthday, and I'll see you soon.
Yeah, nice. Thank you, Chris. Action point that comes to mind there is just I just really don't schedule enough time to recharge into my calendar. Probably should. That would be a very sensible thing to do. I have enough of it on a sort of week-to-week basis, but because I don't really do a lot of forward planning in terms of like the months and the quarters and even the years, it means that I currently don't take enough holidays, don't take enough vacations, don't take enough time to completely switch off from work. And another piece of advice I got from a new friend, Brendan Burchard, recently, who's also way older than me. Well, I say way. I actually don't know how old he is. Maybe he's in his 40s or 50s or something. 40s, probably. Is that at the start of the year to schedule out in advance the holidays and the family trips and the trips with his wife and the trips with his kids and stuff. And so then, because a blank calendar will just be filled with work commitments by default. Because as an entrepreneur, you know, there's all stuff always going on, things always coming up. And so deliberately carving out that time for rest, for recharging, for vacations and stuff. Yeah, that is definitely an action point. Carve out time next 12 months for vacations. Easy. Nice. Good stuff. Thank you, Chris. Let's now go on to Noah Kagan, who is also an entrepreneur and now author of the very good book, $1 Million Weekend. Noah and I got to know each other in lockdown when I interviewed him on my remote podcast. At the time I was doing live streams here on this YouTube channel, and I'd been following Noah's work online since like 2015. And then it turns out that one of his team members was a subscriber to my email newsletter, and so he connected us. And then Noah and I ended up becoming friends. He very kindly hosted me in his house in Austin for a month while I was there last year. Generally all around awesome guy. And so let's see what Noah has to say.
What is up, Ali Abdaal? Most happy birthday. I truly love you. My left side of my face is numb because I went to the dentist, and now I'm getting an MRI back here, and it's raining in Austin, but who cares about that? Here are things when I turned 30, I wish someone would have told me. So number one, it keeps getting better with age. You are the fine wine of life, my friend. I thought 20 was okay. 30, it gets you better. And as 40, it's even better. So as you're getting older, it just keeps getting better and better. Life can actually get better. And I think that's an optimistic attitude to really be embracing, and something I think you do a great job of and will keep doing. Number two, I think these decade birthdays are overhyped. It's like, oh, 30, I gotta go, to the moon. Or I gotta go do some crazy shit. No, simpler. Just be with close friends is the best birthday. So can you go just spend quality time with your parents? Can you just have just go to a nice meal or cook a meal together or go camping? That's something as I've gotten older, I'm like, just be with the people that matter versus all the other distractions. Number three, write out where you think and want to be at 40. That is something that I think you'll find really interesting, and you'll surprise yourself, and it'll give you some direction. Because you're like, here's my predictions for 40, do it. And then you're like, that was actually a lot more accurate or not, but at least you start thinking about what would 40 look like, and it gives you 10 years to get there. I don't know if it happens faster than we think, but at least you have somewhere you're like, cool, here's some amazing stuff I think by 40 I would like to be doing, and you'll have that written down. Next up, whatever is working for you right now, just do it for another 10 years. Stick with it. So health stuff, biz stuff, YouTube stuff, friend stuff, relationship stuff, where you're living stuff. I think at times we're like, oh, it's 30, this kind of arbitrary period. I need to start changing things. Change some, but really think about what's working and how can you continue that for the next, maybe 400 years. Number 5, do skincare. Skincare, yes, my friend, look at this. I'm actually 60. No, I'm just kidding, 42. But facials, lotions, sunblock. If you start it now, by the time you're 40, by the time you're 50, by the time you're like 60 plus like me, you're like, damn, thank God I started putting on skincare and sunblock and all these things to protect my gorgeous prized possession, which is your face. And then lastly, I think something I wish someone would told me at 30 is just enjoy it. We're ambitious people. You're a happy person. At least I love my interactions with you. Enjoy all this stuff. Enjoy the things you've worked on, enjoy the people you work with, enjoy the places you are, enjoy the food you're having, really enjoying the journey. It's just like we're on a planet floating. An asteroid might come, so just enjoy the whole experience along the way. I love you so much. I'm really, truly blessed to have you in my life. I hope the 30s are better than the 20s, which they will be, and just enjoy it all, my man. Love you.
Good stuff. Thank you very much, Noah. Okay, Life gets better with age. That's good to know. Decade birthdays are overhyped. Be with close friends. Nice. Write out where you want to be at 40. So I've got an action point. This is something fun to do. After this video, I'm going to write a letter to my 40-year-old self. That'll be interesting to look back on 10 years from now, if I'm alive by then, fingers crossed. What's working, do it for them. That's interesting. I really like this point that we often think we need to change things, but actually, there's plenty of, there's like almost every aspect of my life is working right now. And so if I were to just continue doing it for another 10 years, things would probably just continue to work, which is awesome. Skincare. I need to get back into my retinoid. I do a good job with the moisturizer and the sun cream, but I sort of ran out of deliveries of my retinoid and haven't been on it for a few months. So retinoid, let's add that as an action point. Exclamation mark. And enjoy the journey. Love that. Thank you, Noah. All right, next up we have Eric Partaker. Eric is my CEO coach currently. Eric and I met online a couple of years ago when he interviewed me on his podcast, and then he seemed to know his stuff. And so I reached out to him saying, hey, can I be a coaching client of yours? And we've been working together for the last 2+ years. He's really helped me and the business, and Angus, my general manager, and we've hung out in real life a bunch of times. He's featured on the podcast as well. So let's see what Eric has to say.
When I turned 30, I wish somebody told me that I didn't have to have everything figured out, know exactly what I wanted to do, because I was absolutely obsessed, with just needing to know every single step that was going to happen thereafter. Where will I be working? What kind of job will I have? What will I be doing? And the funny thing is that since then, I could have never. Since then, I've gone from starting off as a consultant to helping build a tech company, Skype, to building a restaurant chain, to then becoming an influencer on LinkedIn, to starting an investment company, to now building an ed tech company. And it's like literally the best quote in the world is John Lennon's, life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. And if you just focus on whatever it is that you want to do, if you just focus on what's the 80-20? What are the 20% of things within that job, within that role, within that industry that could create 80% of the inflection point or whatever it is that you're trying to create, and just double down on whatever that 20% is, and find the leverage. Like, that's the secret. And I wish somebody would have told me that rather than thinking I had to have everything figured out and everything covered. Nice.
That is good. So we have another journaling prompt. Man, this is going to be a long session of journaling, but that's okay because I'm flying to America next week. So that's going to be a 14-hour flight, so I'll do a bunch of journaling then. What is the 20% in work, health, and relationships that drives 80% of the positive outcomes? That would be very useful to journal on. And then finally, we come to Daniel Priestley. Dan is also now a friend and mentor. I also met Dan for the first time when he was interviewed on my podcast 3 years ago now. And since then, Dan has become a very close friend and mentor. Dan is also a serial entrepreneur, has a bunch of companies, makes loads of money, but also is married and has 3 kids and really cares about his family life as well. And so, like with everyone who I've mentioned here, I admire them for their business prowess, but also for the way in which they approach their personal lives. And so Dan has really been a fountain of wisdom on the entrepreneurship front, but also on the personal life front. So let's see what Dan has to say.
Hey Ali, happy birthday. What an amazing thing it is to turn 30. When I was 30, I wish someone had have told me 3 things. So number 1, that turning 30 is a change in chapter, right? It's a new chapter. The 20s is its own chapter. It's a chapter about workshopping life and fucking around and finding out, so to speak. You can make plenty of mistakes in your 20s and they're all pretty recoverable. But the game does change at 30. And what's going to happen is you're going to have some people who come into your life who are new, amazing people. You'll also have some people who go out of your life. The types of people or the people who are in your life in your 20s, some of them depart, some of them exit stage left, and that's okay. That's normal. That's a normal thing. They get replaced with some other amazing people as well. The relationship that you have with your family definitely changes when you're 30. The relationship you have with your parents changes when you're in your 30s compared to when you're in your 20s. So there's a big shift that happens there. It is a change in chapter. That leads me to point number 2, which is that the foundations that you lay at age 30 dictate the quality of life that you have when you're 40. So making some small investments at 30 pays off big time by the time you're 40. Building a quality reputation and a brand like you're doing, you think it's paying off in the short term, it pays off incredibly in the long term. By the time you're 40, you will have achieved so many magical, unexpected, mysterious, wonderful things happen around you as a result of the good work that you do at 30, right? So give it time and these things compound. The ability to raise money, the ability to launch businesses, the ability to mobilize resources. If you do the right things from 30 to 35, all of that stuff becomes super easy by the time you're 40 to 45. And then the final one, a lot of people are going to tell you this one, which is get in the gym and stay in the gym, right? Now it's time to take fitness pretty seriously. Unfortunately, after 30, you use it or lose it. In your 20s, fitness and health come pretty effortlessly. You can do a lot of reckless things in your 20s. You can go out partying and all of that sort of stuff, and you bounce back pretty fast. As you get past 30, it's a use it or lose it game. If you're in the gym, if you're keeping your health, if you're eating well, if you're looking after yourself, then you keep all of that. And if you don't, you lose it. And sometimes it's very, very hard to get it back the further past 30 you go. So make sure you protect that precious asset of health and wellness through your 30s. Those are 3 things that I wish someone had have told me when I was turning 30, and I hope that adds some value. Cheers.
Alrighty, thank you very much, Dan. Change in chapter, I agree. I like the foundations point. The quality, reputation, and brand really pays off over the very long term, and fitness. Use it or lose it. So, I think that brings us to the end of this video. If you enjoyed this video, you might like to check out this one over here, which is a video that I did reacting to 7 truths that I now know at 30 that I wish I'd known earlier, where I go through some of the life advice that I've learned over the last 7 years of being on YouTube here. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, I hope you'll enjoy that one. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got value from this video, and I'll see you hopefully next time. Bye-bye.